budget workshop held on August 7th, 2023.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item B.
I move that we approve the minutes from the regular city council meeting held on August 7th, 2023.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item C.
I move that we approve the minutes from the council briefing held on August 14th, 2023.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Approval of the agenda.
I move that we approve the agenda.
Second. Motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Announcements? Ms. Golden.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make everyone aware that we have the South End Passive Park Open House this Wednesday, the 23rd, from 4 to 6 here in Council Chambers. And then I'd also like to recognize our Jacks Beach Police Department and the 18 months of dedication, persistence, and hard work that they put in to make sure that all those involved in the killing of Jared Bridegan would be brought to justice, especially Chief Smith and his entire team. I also want to mention that a lot of you know that we had a Pittman Road community meeting last week, and there was a storm that actually, I think, interfered with some people being able to come out. It's my understanding, I talked to Rory's aide, and there have been some people who've requested another meeting, so there may possibly be another one. So hopefully we will find out about that soon.
Thank you, Ms. Golden. Mr. Mesa.
Good evening, everyone. I do want to highlight a couple things. It was just made aware to me by a friend that Jacksonville Beach made the cut for a documentary about surf girls, and I think we're on the second episode. It looks pretty cool, so it's good to see Jacksonville Beach on a surfing documentary. Second thing, I also want to give some recognition to our police department. They have worked many long hours, long weeks, long days between the detectives, surrounding agencies to bring those to justice, and obviously our state's attorney for being there for the family. I know the mayor has been there with the family, and we have given our support to the family and to the police department, so big kudos to them. To those of you who were saying bad things about police department for not doing their job supposedly, this is not a movie, not a TV show where you could right away snap over fingers, get all the camera footage. It takes time, but they did an amazing job, so kudos to them. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to also extend my thanks and appreciation to our police department for, I think it was 357 days, 537 days, something like that. It was a long time, 18 months, probably a good idea just to go ahead and do that. Sandy, thank you. State Attorney Melissa Nelson delivered some words to our team that was down there for the press conference last week, and a lot of kudos to them for being a smaller department working with ATF, the FBI, all sorts of other big departments, and everybody kind of set egos aside and worked together, and that was really what brought them to where they were on Thursday. So it was great to see her really specifically calling out and praising the members of our own police department for their tireless efforts. I also wanted to thank everybody who attended Mayor Deegan's open house last week. It was standing room only. It was a great discussion, and it was very nice to see her out at the beach talking to our residents so early on in her tenure. So I thought that was a really great event. Moving on to courtesy of the floor to visitors, we have a couple of comment cards. We'll start with Matt Beerscheid. You can please correct me on that. Come on up, give us your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes to address the council.
My name is Matt Beerscheid. You spelled it, or you pronounced it correctly. 726 9th Avenue North in Jacks Beach. 3 weeks ago, with no notice from the city, fiber optic conduit was run down in front of my yard, and I say my yard because the current pin locations have more than likely shifted the time. So their accuracy is in question. IQ Fiber installed their lines on the sliver of soil between the current property pins and ended up and the sidewalk that runs adjacent to the property line. In the process, I ended up with my truck being sprayed with concrete dust from the cutting of the sidewalk, and IQ Fiber installers using my hose without permission. From what I've been informed, the direction given to IQ Fiber from the city utility manager was to place the lines within 2 feet of the property line as general instructions for the entire city. This is poor planning, as right-of-ways vary several conditions throughout the city of Jax Beach. Additionally, the 2 existing CATV lines are out towards the road with plenty of adjacent space to run new fiber lines. What happens with the next installation of fiber ISP that's coming down the line as well too? There's absolutely no planning that seems to have appeared on this, which is poor city management at the end of the day. All new construction and a number of residential homes commonly run conduit from the street node at the side of this, from the street node to the side of the service of the building. This is now requires a crisscross of lines, as nothing installed was aligned with the currently batched AT&T and Comcast lines. I quite literally have a node on one side of my yard and I have another node on the other side at this point. I called the city manager's office as soon as the issue arose over 3 weeks ago. I still have not received the common courtesy of a callback directly from him. Instead, I've been having to go through Molly, which I feel bad. I went on a tirade with her the other week on this stuff because I still have yet to hear anything back. I am requesting that the city put an immediate pause on the continued installation of this until this actually can be reviewed and verified that the planning is proper. This has impacts of long-term for the city, for the infrastructure of the city, and there appears to be no planning. Ultimately, it's like, hey, yo, put it 2 feet yonder, and that's how we've got our current guidelines that IQ Fiber is following at this point. IQ Fiber has informed me that the field rep that's out there, that they had actually requested to put it out towards the street where the current communication lines are. Now, tack onto this as well too, all the cell repeaters that are now going to be going in, has any of that been planned and reviewed with the city as a true logistical plan of city management? My impression right now is that it's not.
Thank you. Sean DeBoer.
Hello, my name's Sean DeBoer. I live at 1120 Owen Avenue. Some of my neighbors and I are here to talk to you about a property that's had a building package submitted recently. It's 1952 Horn. It's been a hot topic the last few years. We're here out of concern. We love our community and we're just here to protect it. Thank you for having us. So, a 1952 Horn is a 25-foot wide lot that honestly should have never existed. The minimum lot size for a building in our community is 7,500 square feet. And I've got a couple papers there to follow the building design and what the plan is. 1952 Horn is only 3,500 square feet, so it's actually less than half of the required lot size. So many of my neighbors and I have offered to buy this property several times from 2 different builders. Unfortunately, our offers have fallen on deaf ears. In June of 2021, Atkins Builders purchased this lot from OC Developers for $25,000. Offers from my neighbors were for substantially more than this. The goal from the beginning has been to develop this non-conforming tiny lot, irrelevant of what our community standards are. So 3 variance requests have come up in the last 4 years by 2 different builders for 1952. I'm sure some of you have to be familiar. Our community set Jax Beach records for the number of people in opposition to those requests, both to speak in person and over letters of, emails, letters of opposition. All variance requests were denied. The common request was a setback for 10 feet instead of the required 15-foot setback. The current building package submitted have several platforms. As you can see, if you look at maybe the second and third page, there are several platforms on the first and second stories that actually encroach into the setback space. But calling these platforms architectural embellishments circumvent the variance process that's put in place to protect our community. It kind of doesn't allow the neighbors to speak up about our concerns with this. So just to be, clear, the building package submitted a 10-foot wide slab, which is right on required setback lines, and you can see that this lot's only 25 feet wide. But then framed-in air-conditioned platforms extend into the setbacks, creating bedrooms and living spaces. You can see on the plans themselves. And that puts all the surrounding neighbors at a hardship, fire, water, and such. A couple things I think the community wants to know is specifically what is an architectural embellishment. My understanding of it is, a doorway, hood, or a bay window, not large sections of the house that are air conditioned and framed in that extend out to create, more living space. And am I allowed as a community member to request an interpretation of what an architectural embellishment is? There seems to be quite a bit of gray area, and we just don't want builders to be able to use this as a loophole to circumvent the very protections we have in place, like our setbacks. And then the last couple pages I have on there are from planning and development and a comment of what traditionally architectural embellishments are, and it's nothing like what's being proposed. So the community wants to be proactive with this, just to protect our neighborhood. Ultimately, we looked at the last board meeting, it was recommended that we possibly buy the property, and we tried to do that as well, but we looked to come to a solution.
Thank you, Mr. Gilmore. Tammy Moses? Just your name and address, you have 3 minutes.
Okay. Good evening. Thank you so much for your time. My name is Tammy Moses, and I'm actually here on behalf of my father, Ross Gambrell, who lives at 1105 Theodore Avenue. I am here to speak on the building package for 1952 Horn Street. The lot in question borders the entire back of my father's property. My mom and dad built their house in 2000. They chose a corner lot and purchased an extra 25-foot lot to make it even bigger. They also offered to purchase the lot in question on Horn Street from the original owner prior to OC Development. He declined the offer. He later sold it to OC Development along with 2 other 25-foot lots that a house was built on. I clearly remember this area being developed by William Coastal, as my mom and dad were one of the original people to build out there. He had to purchase 2 25-foot wide lots for each home that he wanted to build. My background is in real estate. I was a realtor for 10 years. I worked and lived in the Jacksonville Beach area. I dealt firsthand with working on closings that had encroachments on several properties. Minor encroachments like fences and decks, but those issues had to be rectified and moved prior to being able to even close on a property. So now with the current project, I've had several questions relating to the encroachments on the setbacks that seem to go unanswered. The current rule is 15 feet total requirement. It's clear to me that the plans submitted are encroaching on the setbacks and would require a variance request. Why is this being allowed without going through the variance process? Is this area in the living room, foyer, hall, and bedrooms being called architectural embellishments? How would this be an architectural embellishment when it's clearly living space? So I was able to reach out to an actual architect today and sent him the plans that y'all have the copy of, and asked him about architectural embellishments, and this was his reply. He said, no, that is taking too much license with the term. Architectural embellishments would be something like a chimney that bumps out. In some cases, you might be able to push it and say something like a bay window would be acceptable, but certainly not a whole room bump out like this on these plans. That's exactly how we feel that live in this neighborhood. How can you encroach on those setbacks just from a term that is broadly used? And in the words of Heather Ireland herself, that's exactly what she said to us in an email when she said different types of architectural embellishments have been permitted on many projects throughout the years, as the definition is pretty broad and allows some flexibility for building design, end quote. I have a big problem with that, so I would like to be able to sit down with y'all, Heather Ireland, anybody else who will make a decision on this and get answers to our questions that we've been unable to do thus far. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Mrs. Moses. Olga Goldman?
Hi, my name is Olga Goldman, and I reside at 1046 Owen Avenue. So I'm here to also speak about this property on North Street. I'm an owner of a 25-foot wide parcel that is adjacent to my property. Several years ago, my late husband and I expressed a desire to combine this lot with our existing property. And initially, we actually found it comical that a 25-foot wide lot piece of land would be considered a lot. However, there is a lot like that just around the corner. Over the past 4 years, the developer who holds ownership of this property has been trying to develop it, and even before that. Consensus has been reached among our neighbors, city officials, and the developer that this particular lot presents substantial challenges. In response, for the past 2 years, I've proposed that the city of Jacksonville, that this piece of land be reclassified from a lot to an actual park. There is City of Jacksonville Code, zoning code 656.701 section D, and I'm going to quote, characteristics of use which were offered before the zoning code was adopted or amended, but which would be prohibited, regulated, or restricted under the terms of the zoning code or future amendments. It is the intent of the zoning code under most circumstances to permit these nonconformities to continue until they were removed, but not to encourage their survival. It is further the intent of the zoning code that the nonconformities shall not be enlarged upon, expanded, intensified, or extended, nor be used as grounds for adding other structures or uses prohibited elsewhere in the same district. It is further the intent of the zoning code that changes in nonconforming uses shall be discouraged, and that a change from one nonconforming use to another shall be strictly controlled as set in the zoning code. So I ask you to rezone this land. When the residents of the neighborhood have approached the developer to purchase this land, which by the way, every time we try to purchase the land, the price goes up exponentially. We're not here to buy this property and develop it into something. We're trying to purchase this land so it doesn't get developed. In a perfect world, we would create a community garden, which actually it was before we even realized that it was somebody owned that land. There was a community garden, there was a little library. In a perfect world, we ask that the city of Jacksonville step in and help rezone that piece of land. And I read really quickly. So I just want to say that we're not trying to profit from that land. We're trying to work with it. We tried working with the developer. It looks now that it is intentional to develop this land. It's just for profit. It really is. And we understand that this is a non-conforming piece of land, and we've tried to work with him, and we've tried to work with the city officials. Heather Ireland does not respond to anybody's emails. We've been trying to email her continuously. And we are members of this community. When you lost your foster dog, I was there looking through the marshals with you. So I just want to say we are members of the community, and please step in and help us, like we help you.
Thank you, Mrs. Goldman. Veronica Whittier.
Taller. Okay, my name is Veronica Whittier, and I'm the owner of the property at 1125 Theodore Avenue. I also stand in opposition of the proposed construction at 1952 Horn Street. Along with the concerns raised by my fellow neighbors tonight, I'd like to express my thoughts as well. If, as Sean said, if the lot was large enough and within the city's coverage and setback regulations that are there to prevent fire and flooding, we wouldn't have an issue with the build. I built in 2013 on a lot plenty big enough. I didn't hear from any of the neighbors. I didn't hear from the city. I didn't have any issue doing that build because it fit within the constructs of the neighborhood. The designs for the construction, as you see them there, they essentially resemble an RV that's been parked with the pop-outs out. So it's very inconsistent with the architecture of the surrounding homes, mine included. And it appears that the builders are essentially trying to put a square peg into a round hole without considering the broader impact that it will have on the neighborhood. The size of the new house strongly suggests that it's going to be potentially used for a short-term rental or Airbnb. It's being shoehorned into this tiny lot bordering on 4 owner-occupied houses, all of whom, again, myself included, oppose it. We have extended reasonable offers to purchase the land, both from the previous and the current owners. I tried to buy it back in 2013 before I even built, because I was going to just extend my lot a little bit, and that was turned down. And ironically enough, I offered the exact same amount that it was just sold for to the owners currently, which is a little bit frustrating because none of us ever realized that it was even for sale. Had it been posted for sale or even put up for sale, then one of us definitely would have bought it and would have been happy to pay more than the 25 just so that it doesn't get developed. Like Olga said, we have plans to rezone it so that it just doesn't ever get built on. Hopefully turn it into a park or extend backyards, however it kind of slices out. I think any of us would be happy with any option that didn't include building on the land. Obviously the builder stands more to gain through construction than he does selling the lot, but at what expense to the neighborhood? Either, they can turn a small profit and sell it, we're happy to pay what they paid plus some, and that they've had architects and builders and things draw up these plans, we understand that. And they'll still turn a small profit and keep the neighborhood's value intact. Or they can build on it and get a larger profit at the cost of devaluing all of our homes that surround it and disrupting the entire neighborhood with potentially Airbnb parties until however late at night. This is one build for them, one property, but it's our home and our lifestyle. They'll move on and we'll be left with an eyesore that even if it doesn't hurt our comparables on price per square foot, it will certainly hurt the curb appeal for any potential buyers in the future, right? If we're looking to go to sell our home, nobody wants to live right in front of or right behind a house that, looks like an RV with constant, new incoming tenants every week. We all have a lot of money invested in our properties, right? And we don't feel that it's right that one person or a company will profit while the rest of us lose value, especially when there are other options. It's not as if we're saying just don't let them do it. We're saying how can we, stop this from happening and still he gets out in a fair way. The last thing is I know it's not ultimately directly up to this board, but this council. But if these plans that you have in front of you were being, put in your backyards, I just kind of ask you to think how that make you feel and think how it make you, look at it that way. But I do appreciate you taking the time to listen tonight. Okay, have a good night.
Thank you, Ms. Woodard. Megan DeGance.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Megan DeGance. My family have been here in Jacksonville Beach for over a decade. I have 2 daughters that went to school at UNF, lived and worked in Jacksonville Beach, and my son graduated from Fletcher High School. We fell in love with Jacksonville from the very beginning because of the quality of life. Everyone is friendly, there's something for everyone, and a sense of community. We have the best beach-like community. A beach-like community that thrives on unity and shared values. The term beach life implies an intimate connection with our coastal surroundings, emphasizing a balance between natural beauty and responsible development. A project that fails to adhere to architectural norms could introduce incongruities that undermine the beach-inspired aesthetic that contributes to our identity. Decisions made could echo through time. By approving a project that counters Jacksonville Beach's vision statement, we risk leaving a legacy that contradicts the very ideals we aspire to hold for our future generations. I urge you to carefully weigh the impact of this development on our city's vision statement, which is a vibrant coastal community that embraces a beach life. Our commitment to a vibrant coastal community extends beyond individual interests to embrace the greater good of Jacksonville Beach. I implore you to consider the implications of this project, and thank you for your careful consideration and dedication to upholding our city's vision. I live at 1019 Theodore Avenue, and I really love this community, and like Olga said, just because it's not happening in your backyard, please consider ours. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. DeGance. That is the last of the comment cards. We'll move on to the consent agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second. Motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item A under city manager. Oh, sorry. Wayne, come on up. Congratulations are in order. Our newest superintendent for Beaches Energy Services. Thank you for your service.
Thank you, I enjoyed it. Been a good 23 years.
Congratulations.
Thanks. So I'm here to ask you to award reject bid 2223-07 for Stuart Irby for the gig operated switches. We use these switches just to move power around the city. Any questions?
Let's go ahead and get a motion.
I move that we award bid number 222307 to Stuart C. Irby Company for the purchase of group-oriented air brake switches.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any hard comments for Wayne? Nothing?
No tough action there?
That's group-operated
Group operated.
air brake switches.
We call my game switch.
Minor Scrivener's error. Okay, any comments? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, roll call.
Councilmember Golding,
Yes.
Councilmember Horn,
Yes.
Councilmember Jansen,
Yes.
Councilmember Meza,
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols,
Yes.
Councilmember Sutton,
Yes.
Mayor Hoffman.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you, congratulations. Okay, now we have the vacancy in the Community Redevelopment Agency by member Jeff Jones, who's going to be moving out of the area. We've done, prior to the past couple weeks, we had several interviews, and I think we have 14 potential candidates that have been interviewed by the council thus far. So what I'm going to do is open the floor to nominations. So as you have a nomination, just go ahead and turn your light on. We'll take those and then we'll vote. Starting with Mr. Jansen.
I nominate Megan Leslie.
I nominate Megan Leslie.
Ms. Golding.
I nominate Ken Marsh.
Mr. Nichols.
I nominate Christy Elflin.
Any other sorry, Mr. Nichols, your light's still on. Any other nominations? Okay, so we have 3. We're going to go ahead and do a roll call, and when your name is called, Ms. Golding.
Are we allowed to have any discussion?
Oh yeah, I guess we can do that. The nominations are closed. Would anybody like to comment, Ms. Golding?
I'd just like to say that I've nominated Ken Marsh because I think a lot of us know that Ken has been very involved in the community for several years and has been very actively involved in what the CRA is doing, providing feedback, and participating in the CRA meetings for several years. I think that Ken would be, the other candidates are good candidates, but Ken has been providing a valuable service, I would say, as a citizen, and I think he would do a great job on the CRA, so I would urge you to support Ken Marsh.
Mr. Nichols.
I nominated Christy mainly because of her background as an urban planner. She has an incredible amount of experience. You are correct. I mean, Ken Marsh is very high on my list of people that I would be fine with being on this. We're very fortunate to actually have a good group of people to do this, but Christy's background in urban planning just really put her over the top. I mean, she is an expert in the industry. So, that's the only reason, that's the main reason she got my vote. And she's committed to the community, and I did talk to her, and she would really like to do it.
Mr. Horn.
excuse me, sorry. I do want to say that after I was at the one round of the interviews, it was not the other, listened to the audio, and just looking at the applications, I do have to say that the City of Jacksonville Beach is absolutely blessed to have this number of well-qualified candidates. I did not nominate someone because that person was already nominated by Councilman Golding. I did have a backup, but this is my first time doing this, so I'm not really sure how it works, but there's like a second or something like that. So, but ultimately, I just want to say that I think I was amazed to see how many wonderful candidates we have. I think the future looks very bright for us. So thank you all for, being willing to come out and submit yourself to this process.
Thank you. Just to add a comment, we are also looking at adding an alternate or two to this board, and we do have two term renewals or end of terms, so wherever we decide to go coming up on this as well. So we're a little out of sequence right now due to the resignation, and the resignations on the CRA do not happen very often. So wanted to echo, again, it's great that we have such a great list of candidates to choose from. Any other comments, Mr. Mason?
Just a question. We're going to add one or two alternates in the future?
Looks like two.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, so we have Megan Leslie, Ken Marsh, and Christy Elflin. Elflin, that sounds good. So when your name is called, just vote for the candidate of your choice, and we will see who prevails. Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Horn,
Ken Marsh.
Councilmember Jansen,
Megan Leslie.
Councilmember Meza,
Ken Marsh.
Councilmember Nichols,
Christy Elflin.
Councilmember Sutton,
Christy Elfman.
Councilmember Golding,
Ken Marsh.
Mayor Hoffman.
Christy Elflin, so we have a tie with Ken Marsh and Christy Elflin, so we will go ahead and do a revote with one or the other of those.
Councilmember Jansen,
Christy Elflin.
Councilmember Meza,
Ken Marsh.
Councilmember Nichols,
Christy Elflin.
Councilmember Sutton,
Christy Elfman.
Councilmember Golding,
Ken Marsh.
Councilmember Horn,
Ken Marsh.
Mayor Hoffman.
Christy Elflin, so Christy will be named the replacement for the duration of Jeff Jones' term. Moving on to,
Just for clarification, that term is just the remainder of this year, is that correct?
okay, moving on to the next item, Ms. Gossett.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Ashley Gossett.
Department Director, Beaches Energy.
So this item for consideration is a revision to the Beaches Energy electric rates. So Beaches Energy has worked diligently to repair and to maintain our electric distribution system, to maintain the reliability and services that our customers expect. So after conducting an internal rate review, staff is proposing an increase to the non-fuel portion of the rate to offset the rising operating and capital improvement costs. At the same time, we will reduce the pass-through cost of power, or the bulk power cost adjustment, so that the net effect to our customers will actually be a reduction in their overall electric bill. And the chart on the screen shows an average residential customer who consumes 1,000 kilowatt hours per month. Under the current rates, they pay $150.33, and with the proposed rates, they'll pay $142.03, which is a reduction of $8.30 or 5.5% for residents. The change in the bulk power cost adjustment can be done administratively, but the change in the non-fuel portion or the energy portion has to be done by resolution. And so we still plan to do a full rate study after the master plan is completed in the upcoming year. And Director Putnam and I are both here to answer any questions you may have.
Finally, something's going down. Madam Clerk, will you read the resolution by title?
A resolution of the City of Jacksonville Beach, Florida, to revise electric rates for Beaches Energy Services, providing for adoption of recitals, repeal of prior inconsistent resolutions, prior inconsistent resolutions and council decisions, severability, and an effective date. Sorry that my printout was not.
That's okay. And a motion?
I move that we adopt resolution number 2149, 2023, revising electric rates for Beaches Energy Services.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, roll call.
Councilmember Meza,
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols,
Yes.
Councilmember Sutton,
Yes.
Councilmember Golding,
Yes.
Councilmember Horn,
Yes.
Councilmember Jansen,
Yes.
Mayor Hoffman.
Yes, motion carries. City Attorney Robinson, item B.
Members of council, resolution 2151-2023 gives the city manager authority to terminate employees who fail and refuse to take the oath, which is required by section 876.05 of the Florida statutes. This particular statute is also known as the loyalty oath that applies to both state and local officials as well as the employees. And the person giving the oath is agreeing to support the U.S. and Florida constitutions. It's required to be taken before payroll is issued. However, in our case, we realized that we had not been in compliance with this particular provision, and that is why this resolution comes before you today. If the oath is not taken, section 876.06 mandates that the city terminates that employee. And the resolution here authorizes the city manager to effectuate that particular power. That's very important because if you look at the statute, under the statute, determinations for this particular reason has to come from the local governing body. And so in order for the city to come in full compliance, we need the authority to terminate employees, and we recommend that that's done for the city manager who already possesses that general authority.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Will you read the resolution by title, please?
A resolution of the City of Jacksonville Beach, Florida, delegating authority to the city manager to terminate employment of city employees for refusal to comply with section 876.05 Florida statutes, providing for adoption of recitals, repeal of prior inconsistent resolutions and council decisions, severability, and an effective date.
And a motion?
I move that we adopt resolution number 2151, 2023, delegating authority to the city manager to terminate employment of city employees for refusal to comply with section 876.05 of Florida statute.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion or questions from council? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Councilmember Nichols,
Yes.
Councilmember Sutton,
Yes.
Councilmember Golding,
Yes.
Councilmember Horn,
Yes.
Councilmember Jansen,
Yes.
Councilmember Meza,
Yes.
Mayor Hoffman.
Yes, motion carries. Moving on to ordinances. Madam Clerk, will you read the ordinance by title, please?
An ordinance of the City of Jacksonville Beach, Florida, amending Chapter 4, Alcoholic Beverages, Section 4-2, Prohibited Hours of Sale, Consumption, and Service, to comply with House Bill 1561, creating a special zone in the City of Jacksonville Beach, providing exceptions for space and seating requirements for liquor licenses for restaurants in the downtown incentive zone, providing for additional restrictions, providing for compliance with House Bill 639, and providing for repeal of conflicting ordinances, scrivener's errors, severability, codification, and an effective date.
This ordinance is before the council for a public hearing and consideration on its second reading. I will now open the public hearing on ordinance number 2023-8200. Are there any updates from staff, any additional information? We do not have any speaker cards on this issue. Would anybody like to address the issue in favor or in opposition? Seeing none, the public hearing is closed. Can I get a motion?
I move that we adopt ordinance number 2023-8200 on the second reading, amending Chapter 4, alcoholic beverages, Section 4-2, prohibited hours of sale, consumption, and service of the City Code of Ordinance to comply with House Bill 1561 regarding special food service licenses in the downtown incentive zone.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion or questions? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Councilmember Sutton?
Yes.
Councilmember Golding?
Yes.
Councilmember Horn?
Yes.
Councilmember Jansen?
Yes.
Councilmember Meza?
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
Mayor Hoffman?
Yes, motion carries. The next item, Madam Clerk, will you read the ordinance by title, please?
An ordinance of the City of Jacksonville Beach, Florida, amending Chapter 34, Land Development Code, Article 8, Site Development Standards, Division 2, Supplemental Standards, Section 34-393, Alcoholic Beverage Establishments, to maintain consistency with amended Chapter 4, Alcoholic Beverages, and providing for repeal of conflicting ordinances, Scrivener's errors, severability, codification, and an effective date.
This ordinance for the amendment of the Land Development Code is before this council for a public hearing and consideration on its second reading. Under the laws of the state of Florida, an ordinance which changes the actual list of permitted, conditional, or prohibited uses within a zoning category, or which otherwise changes the text of the Land Development Code, is a quasi-legislative proceeding. A quasi-legislative proceeding means that a governing body is acting in its rulemaking capacity. It is the duty of the council to arrive at sound decisions regarding the use of property within the city. This includes receiving citizen input regarding the proposed uses within a zoning category. The application has been reviewed by staff and the Planning Commission for consistency with other portions of the Land Development Code and the comprehensive plan. The council may hear from all interested parties in the legislative determination of an amendment to the text of the Land Development Code. The council's decision on a text amendment application is based on the criteria set forth in Section 34-211 of the Land Development Code. Each member of the council has been provided a copy of the criteria, and it's laminated, no less. Isn't that nice? I will now open the public hearing on ordinance number 2023-8201. Any update from staff? Oh, sorry. Public hearing is open. No update from staff. Would anyone like to speak in favor or in opposition to the application? Seeing none, the public hearing is closed. Can I get a motion?
I move that we adopt ordinance number 2023-8201 on the second reading to amend Section 34-393 of the Land Development Code to update regulations pertaining to restaurants exempt from the alcoholic beverage establishment proximity requirements.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Before opening the floor for discussion or questions by the council, please be reminded that our decision will be based on the criteria set forth in the Land Development Code, staff's report, recommendation of the Planning Commission, and the public input at all hearings. Is there any discussion by council? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, roll call.
Councilmember Golding?
Yes.
Councilmember Horn?
Yes.
Councilmember Jansen?
Yes.
Councilmember Meza?
Yes. Yes.
Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
Councilmember Sutton?
Yes.
Mayor Hoffman?
Yes, motion carries. Can I have a motion for adjournment?
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Motion carried. We adjourn.
Shoot that time.